Is this the week that the Jaguars finally win an NFL game? Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. We talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm Roche Jeffrey. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our video. We're on to week 5 in the NFL season. The season's already flying by, and we've already had a ton of great football to analyze and go over so far this NFL season. In the playoff picture, it's still very premature, but we're getting a clear idea week after week on which teams are going to end up making the NFL playoffs. But I'm going to go over every single week 5 NFL game and make my predictions for every single one. So let's get into it. On Thursday Night Football and Prime Video, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers traveling to the Atlanta Falcons in an NFC South showdown. And Tampa Bay is 3-1. Atlanta is 2-2. Both teams have had their ups and downs this season, and both teams have had times where their offense has been good and where their defense has been really good, but not really all at the same time. I think Tampa Bay's been a little bit more consistent than Atlanta, hence why their record's better, but it hasn't been by much. Baker Mayfield, though, has been playing overall good enough for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to definitely be a potential NFL playoff team. And I think that they're actually going to go on the road and knock off the Atlanta Falcons, a team that's been a little bit worse on offense than Tampa Bay, by a score of 21-20. I think Tampa Bay pulls out that important road win in the NFC South. Then on Sunday morning, we got the return of Sunday Morning Football on NFL Network at 9:30 a.m. between the New York Jets and the Minnesota Vikings. The Jets are 2-2 and the Vikings are 4-0. Aaron Rodgers has had some struggles with the Jets so far this season, but he is starting to get his rhythm a little bit. He's been kind of a game manager, just doing enough to help the Jets be competitive. Whereas Minnesota, they're 4-0. They're one of the only teams left in the NFL that hasn't lost a game yet. They've been very impressive, and I think that's going to continue. I have not seen anything so far as going to suggest that Minnesota is going to drop a game to a team like the Jets. The Jets are not a bad team. I think that they will have a shot of making the playoffs, but they just aren't good enough offensively overall. Aaron Rodgers is going to have to showcase more of what he did at the Green Bay Packers when he was younger to be able to help the Jets win this game. I do believe that the Minnesota Vikings are going to knock off the New York Jets 24-17 for the Vikings to stay undefeated. Then we got the Carolina Panthers traveling to the Chicago Bears on the 1 o'clock game on Fox. In Carolina, they're 1-3, and I picked them last week to beat the Bengals. And if the receivers did not drop balls, they actually would have won. Andy Dalton had a good game. It's very unfortunate that Carolina's offense is just so inhibited because of the fact that their receivers cannot catch passes. And Chuba Hubbard's not a bad running back, but he's not a power back, and they decided to use him running it up the middle at certain times in the game at the goal line, and they were stopped by the Bengals. It's just dumb. The Bears, they've had some growing pains with Caleb Williams, but they are 2-2 on the season. Since it's at the Bears, I will go with them to beat the Carolina Panthers in a squeaker by a score of 17-14. Then we got the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals in an AFC showdown. The Ravens are 2-2 on the season, and you might be like, the Ravens are not that good. But I still believe that the Baltimore Ravens are a really good team. They're going to be a playoff team as long as Lamar Jackson stays healthy. They just had some setbacks early on in the season. They're starting to play better. Had a very impressive win over the Bills this past week. Whereas Cincinnati, I mean, I don't know what to say. They're 1-3 on the year, and they did just beat the Panthers, but still, it's not all that impressive. Joe Burrow has been playing pretty well. Jamar Chase is getting it going, but they aren't a good defensive team, and that's going to be a problem against the Ravens. I think that Baltimore will go on the road and knock off Cincinnati 24-20. And you got the Miami Dolphins, who are a mess. They are an absolute complete mess, going on the road to play the New England Patriots. If Tua was in, I would pick Miami to win this game, but he's got all those concussion problems. Miami's offense is garbage. Tyler Huntley's now in for Skylar Thompson, who's injured. He hasn't been doing any better. New England, Jacoby Brissett's not great, and the Patriots offense is very mid, but I do believe with them being at home and the fact that Miami's such a disaster, I think that the Patriots will win 17-10 to get their second win of the season. And you got the Cleveland Browns traveling to the Washington Commanders, who have been a surprise team. They have been really good to start the year. They're 3-1 on the season. Jaden Daniels is one of the biggest surprising stars of the season during his rookie year as well. I don't really think anybody was expecting him to play this well right out of the gate. He's kind of looking like C.J. Stroud last year. Very impressive. But in the fact that he can run all over the place, give him Lamar Jackson vibes. Has to stay healthy, though. The Cleveland Browns are 1-3 on the season. Their offense is very vanilla. They can't really get it going on a consistent basis. They're traveling on the road. I think that the Commanders are actually going to win their 4th game of the year and beat the Browns 24-17 and continue to showcase why Jayden Daniels was an excellent pick for the Commanders. Then you got the Indianapolis Colts traveling to the winless Jacksonville Jaguars. Did anybody think the Jaguars would be 0-4 at this point in the season? I certainly didn't. I thought that they would at least maybe have had a win or two, maybe even 3. Doesn't look like the Jaguars are going to have a great year at all, though. But the Colts, they're 2-2 on the season. Anthony Richardson's very turnover prone. And now they had to bring in Joe Flacco because Richardson got banged up. Flacco's old, but he can still play. And I do believe that if he is in, I think that the Colts might have a better shot to win this game than if it's Anthony Richardson. Richardson's talented, but he's very turnover prone, like I already mentioned. But I actually am going to go with the Jaguars to win their first game of the season. I don't know. I just finally think they're going to get it done at home. They looked better last week against the Texans. I'm going to go with the Jaguars to beat the Colts 20-17. Then we got the Buffalo Bills and the Houston Texans in a fantastic 1 o'clock showdown on CBS. Both teams are 3-1. Josh Allen's looked great to start this season, but they finally lost to the Ravens. I picked that game right. I went with the Ravens on Sunday Night Football. Something told me they were going to get it done, and they did. CJ Stroud's been very good for the Texans. He's had a couple setbacks, but overall, can't really complain at his performances. I do believe that the Texans are a good team, but something tells me that Josh Allen's going to have the Bills bounce back, and they're going to end up getting a 27-24 win on the road in what should be one of the best games of the Week 5 NFL slate. Then in the first 4 o'clock game, you got the Las Vegas Raiders traveling to the Denver Broncos. Both of these teams are 2-2, but they have not looked all that good, and it has not been pretty to start the season to get them to 2-2. The Raiders, I do believe that they are a team that has the potential to be solid. They beat the Baltimore Ravens, so you can't be a bad team if you beat the Ravens. Whereas the Broncos, they squeaked by the Jets last week. I don't know how they won that game. Won 10-9 in a very ugly defensive showdown. But I don't know. Even though the Raiders have looked better than the Broncos so far this season, it is at Denver. So I'm going to go with the Broncos to beat the Raiders 17-14 for the Broncos to actually get above 500. Then you have the Arizona Cardinals traveling to the San Francisco 49ers. Arizona, they do have one win on the season, but even though Kyler Murray has played well at times, it hasn't been consistently enough, and they just don't have enough weapons yet. Marvin Harrison Jr. is fantastic, but they need more on that offense. They need more on their defense. San Francisco's had some setbacks. That's why they're 2-2 on the season, but like the Ravens, they're still a really great team despite having 2 losses. I believe that the San Francisco 49ers are going to get back over 500 with a 28-14 win over the Cardinals. Then we have the Green Bay Packers traveling to the Los Angeles Rams. Green Bay looked really good last week, almost beating the Minnesota Vikings, just couldn't get it done. Whereas the Rams, they've been very disappointing this season. I know a lot of people weren't expecting them to be great this year, but they still have underperformed what people thought that they were going to do at the beginning of the season. And even though Green Bay is only 2-2 on the year and they had an injury to Jordan Love, Malik Willis has filled in pretty effortlessly. I think they've looked like the better team, and I think that they're going to get this win. I'm going to go with the Packers to knock off the Rams 21-14. Matthew Stafford just hasn't played all that well, and the team as a whole has been pretty poor to start this season. Then in the final 4 o'clock game of the Week 5 slate in the NFL, we got the New York Giants traveling to the Seattle Seahawks. The Giants are 1-3 on the year. They haven't won on their season, but they still haven't been a great team. Whereas Seattle, they're 3-1. They finally dropped their first game this past week. But I will say, losing at the Detroit Lions is not a bad loss at all. Even though Seahawks fans wanted to stay undefeated, it's still kind of tough to expect them to go into that environment and get a win, especially because Jared Goff and that offense is humming right now. They are getting it together. So Seattle, I think that they are the far superior team here. I think the Giants will give them a game. They'll try, but the Seattle Seahawks will end up winning at the end of the day, 21-14. And then on Sunday Night Football, we got the Dallas Cowboys traveling to the Pittsburgh Steelers on NBC. And Dallas, they're 2-2. Don't even know what to make of them. They were great in Week 1 against the Browns, were trash in Week 2 and Week 3, and then they struggled against the Giants last week, but a win is a win. But for the Cowboys, they expect more than that, especially with all the talent that they have. Pittsburgh is 3-1 on the season. They finally dropped a game last week. Justin Fields has been solid, but the offense for the Steelers still isn't all that good despite them being 3-1. I don't know. Call me crazy, but I do believe that the Dallas Cowboys are going to get back over 500. I think that Dak Prescott's going to have a good game. The offense is going to stay focused. They're hungry. They're irritated that they've struggled so far this season. And I don't think the Steelers are good enough, even though it's at home, to be able to get this win. I'm going to go with the Cowboys to beat the Steelers 21-20 on Sunday Night Football. And then in the final game of the Week 5 slate of the NFL, we got the New Orleans Saints traveling to the Kansas City Chiefs at 8 o'clock on ESPN. And the Chiefs are 4-0. They just can't lose. Even though they've had some squeakers, they just find ways to win no matter what. The Saints had a glorious start to the season, going 2-0, and they were destroying those teams, and then they've lost their last 2 games. What happened to the Saints? Their offense is not looking as good as it did at first. Their defense hasn't even done as good. Derek Carr is regressing. I don't even know what you want to say. Maybe it was just lightning in a bottle those first 2 weeks of the season. I still think the Saints are a solid team, but after the way they played those first 2 weeks, I thought they were one of the best teams in the NFL. Clearly, that's not the case. But the Chiefs, I just think that even though they haven't really looked like the best team in the NFL consistently this season, they are undefeated. They are 4-0. And Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, they just find ways to win. Give me the Chiefs. I think that they're going to find a way to continue that unbeaten streak, win their 12th game in a row, and knock off the Saints 24-17 on Monday Night Football. But those are all my predictions for the NFL games during Week 5. I think there's some solid matchups. I'm looking forward to the Bills and Texans, the Cowboys and the Steelers, the Saints and the Chiefs, and a few other games as well. The playoff picture still very premature, but this week is going to give us a clearer picture of how the NFL playoff picture is going to shake out. Some teams really need a win to have any shot to save their season, especially like the Jaguars. Their season might already be lost, but they really need a win. But it's really going to be interesting to see what happens in this Week 5 NFL slate, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below about all of these Week 5 games, whether you agree or disagree with my picks for every single game, and which game you are looking forward to the most out of all the games during the Week 5 slate. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Follow me on Twitter as well. Link is in the description, and I'll see you next time.